'Tis the season, the most wonderful time of the year. Celebration with friends and family. It's time to pay tribute to this jolly month. So join us as we get into the Christmas spirit. You've heard of Elf on the Shelf, but this is Venom on the Shelf.
The greatest animated Disney film of all time. A tale as old as time. A story of an abusive captor and his prisoner and it's no, it's not like that, okay?
I beg your pardon?
Well, way back in the late 30s, Snow White was a massive hit, so Walt Disney wanted to adapt many more stories to the big screen, Beauty and the Beast being one of them. Disney Studio attempted this all the way through the 30s, 40s and 50s, but the team found it far too difficult a story to deal with. It didn't help that in 1946 we got the widely beloved, for some reason, previously reviewed French adaptation, which may have disheartened Disney from doing its own version.
Splendid!
It wasn't until the late 80s came around and Who Framed Roger Rabbit was a massive success, so they decided that maybe now was the time to resurrect this production idea. Richard Williams had directed the animated parts of the Roger Rabbit film and was asked to direct this feature, but turned it down to instead work on The Thief and the Cobbler. Instead, his colleague Richard Purdon was picked up for the job. Beauty and the Beast became the first ever Disney animated film to have a screenwriter, which was still quite strange at the time, as they primarily used storyboards and not a full script. But by 1989, the studio were unhappy with the original idea and the entire project had to be started over from scratch. This led to Purdon resigning as director. Kirk Wise and Gary Trousdale were then picked up for their feature film debut. They had previously written the songs for The Little Mermaid, and they quickly wanted to turn this into a Broadway-style musical as well. The original story only had two main characters, so they had to incorporate new ones, turning the entire castle's inhabitants into household objects as well, punishing completely innocent people for the Beast being a bellend, though elements were also inspired by the French version. That one did show inanimate objects coming to life, but this is the first time they were all given distinct personalities. Originally, Jodie Benson, the voice of Ariel, was cast as Belle, but they decided to change her up for Broadway actress and singer Paige O'Hara, so the heroine would sound more like a grown woman and not a girl.
I won't let you do this!
John Cleese was actually supposed to voice Cogsworth, but had to back out to instead voice a part in An American Tail. Julie Andrews was considered for Mrs. Potts, but this was later given to the late great Angela Lansbury. Rupert Everett tried out for the part of the villain Gaston, but was turned down because he didn't sound arrogant enough. He did, however, apparently work on this because he ended up voicing Prince Charming in Shrek 2 over a decade later.
That's very kind of you.
Naturally, Beauty and the Beast was revolutionary. It was a financial success, a big hit with the fans, and became the first ever animated movie to be nominated for Best Picture. This was a year when Beauty and the Beast went up against Silence of the Lambs. What a time to be alive.
Now I get it!
The film's animation is gorgeous. It's incredibly colourful and just beautiful to look at. It's just visually an incredibly pleasant film. Even when the imagery is dark, it's still beautiful. You can't beat the old animation style, you young whippersnappers!
Although he had everything his heart desired, the prince was spoiled, selfish, and unkind.
His name was Andrew. Now he's no longer allowed near schools or playgrounds. I respect how quickly they breeze over the prince's backstory. Yeah, he was a dick, so this bitch turned him into a monster. And go! Genuinely surprised there's not like 17 different spin-off movies about his life before becoming a beast. But this backstory has caused a lot of speculation.
The rose she had offered was truly an enchanted rose, which would bloom until his 21st year.
10 years we've been rusting, needing so much more than dusting.
Which would mean that he would have been 11 when he was cursed, but the writers actually did defend this. They claimed that the lyric didn't actually refer to how long they were cursed for, but how long they weren't able to use their skills, because the Beast was a miserable prick and he wouldn't let them sing and dance. That makes no sense. They messed up and they know it. Although some have said that he must break the curse by his 21st year, and it never actually says his 21st birthday. He could have been cursed at, say, age 17, but then must break it before the 21-year anniversary of the curse and not his his birthday, which I guess makes a bit more sense, but the petals clearly start falling in this film as soon as he meets Belle, so it's unlikely, it makes no sense, and they messed up and they know it.
Alright, this has gone far enough.
The songs are just so charming and wonderful. They're magical, and it's easy to see why this is widely regarded as a classic. They're just so memorable and catchy.
Bonjour! 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 Bonjour!
There goes the baker with his tray, like always.
They were written by Academy Award-winning Howard Ashman, who sadly died just 8 months before the film came out. It's dedicated to his memory, and he truly left a legacy behind. The animation is what makes the film so wonderful. My main problem with Disney's remakes is their charm being sucked dry by them becoming live action. But if Belle is the only one in town who reads, why do they even have a bookstore to begin with? And it's just weird that she's regarded as the most beautiful girl in town.
But she's
The most beautiful girl in town.
I know, but
Yet everyone looks down on her and finds her weird. Gaston is easily one of the greatest Disney villains ever. He thinks he's God's gift and wants Belle because she's the only one he doesn't fall for his charm. It's easy motivation, but it works, even if it hasn't aged that well.
It's not right for a woman to read. Soon she starts getting ideas and thinking.
But he's funny, so who cares?
he needs all the help he can get.
Don't talk about my father that way.
Yeah, don't talk about her father that way.
And he has one of the catchiest numbers in Disney history.
No one's slick as Gaston, no one's quick as Gaston, no one's next as incredibly thick as Gaston.
LeFou was actually created based on Woody Allen, and they even hoped he would voice it, but it never happened. Weird, I don't remember LeFou chasing after any children in this.
You don't get much crazier than that.
We also never see or hear about Belle's mum. I would say I'm surprised there isn't a spin-off series about where she is, but the remake already had that covered. Just like we never find out why or how nobody notices the prince disappearing or all of his servants vanishing or why there's a random castle in the middle of the woods nearby. Angela Lansbury is a delight as Mrs. Potts, and her son Chip is voiced by Bradley Pierce. Originally Chip was only supposed to have one line, but they loved Bradley's voice so much he was given a much bigger part, and he is great.
You really believe that?
The first sight of the beast looks awesome. He looks terrifying. The voice is incredibly intimidating and the animation is fantastic. Bit of a simp though. Locks the man away, but when it comes to the woman he gives her a whole fucking suite. Damn woke beast. But you would have thought Gaston would actually try to help Maurice. I mean, he's trying to win over Belle, but instead he helps to humiliate him. How did the remake do certain things better than the OG? I don't like this!
This is impossible.
I realise people have an issue with the love story, but I mean, it has a wholesome message underneath. She needs to ignore his looks and fall for who he is. It's really sweet.
Get out!
No!
Get out!
Okay, maybe this is toxic. It is funny though that it's practically a hostage situation and he's expecting her to be gracious about the whole thing. But he saves her life immediately after, so it's fine. And that's it. Now he loves her. To be fair, it makes sense to me why he loves her so quickly, as he's been so reclusive for so long and is probably horny as hell. But it makes no damn sense why she also warms to him in like 5 minutes.
You can't marry a man you just met. You can if it's true love.
God, the songs are great and the imagery is fantastic. Originally, Be Our Guest was going to be sang to Maurice instead, until they were like, this is stupid. Let's change that. I know the film takes place after just a couple of days, but we get a sweet montage of them bonding. It's just charming how she eats like him so he doesn't have to feel self-conscious. It's an animated Disney film, so it's fine for them to fall for each other so quickly. The titular song is beautifully done by Lansbury, but she wasn't even supposed to be singing it. She wanted one of the other characters to sing it, but they asked her to do one take just as a backup, and it was so good it ended up being used. The animation is so impressive, sometimes it looks like it is actually live action with some of these shots. The conflicts are very bizarre though. She goes home to help her dad, but it's treated like it's one or the other. It's either she's a prisoner forever or she's gone to help her father. Why can't she just come back? Why can't he just come and live with them inside the castle?
Cogsworth, I am surprised at you. She's not a prisoner.
Yes she is. By definition, she is quite literally a prisoner. He lets her go, but why doesn't he even go with her? He knows there's wolves outside.
That should break the spell.
But it's not enough. She has to love him in return.
But she does. Why does she have to say it or kiss him for it to work? But despite threatening to send her dad to the loony bin, Belle still refuses to marry Gaston. Kinda judging you, Belle, not gonna lie. But the movie does actually do the impossible, and it finds the only acceptable way to use the word monster in your screenplay.
He's no monster, Gaston. You are.
They have this awesome song leading to the third act to kill the beast. It is so dark and tragic, as you really want him to survive. But how the hell do they know where the castle is? And how do they walk there if Belle and Maurice both needed horses? It's so heartbreaking as the beast practically turns suicidal and just gives up hope. Poor fella. Wait till you see the sequel.
It doesn't matter now.
It is so much fun watching the enchanted furniture taking on all of the villagers. I mean, if the remake is anything to go by, LeFou likes things up his ass. The beast doesn't even care when Gaston is about to kick his ass. They fight to the death and it is so dark. Belle shows up, which gives him strength. And the annoying thing is, he actually has the opportunity to kill Gaston, but doesn't because heroes are idiots and they need him to die without our hero being a murderer. I mean, it is a nice transition as he realizes he really isn't the beast, Gaston is. Originally, Gaston was going to stab the beast repeatedly and then kill himself. He was going to jump off the tower and laugh maniacally, ending his own life, realizing that he would never be able to win Belle's heart. But this was cut out. Another idea was that he would actually survive the fall before being eaten by the wolves in the forest. But this was later dropped and then reused for The Lion King. When Paige O'Hara recorded her voiceover for the emotional death scene, she was actually so convincing the directors rushed into the recording booth to check that she was okay. She then immediately dropped out of character and said, "Acting!"
Not quite the word I was looking for.
And after all of that, this is what the most handsome prince looks like? Even she doesn't look like she's very keen on him now. She wants the Wolfman back. I can't help but notice, how old is Mrs. Potts? How old was she when she had Chip? In fact, if they've been cursed for 10 years, how did Chip get conceived? Or do they just not age? Which would then make Belle a nonce because he's 11! The movie is just wonderful. It's charming, magical and fun with unforgettable numbers, memorable characters, and it's just a great film to sit and enjoy with your family.